Wow, it's early. Good morning, and welcome to the inaugural Breakfast Club event of the 2026 season. I'm Carol Cain from the Free Press and CBS Michigan Matters. Again, it's my honor to be with you here this morning. I'm so glad to see you all here bright and early, and I want to give a shout out to those watching during live streaming with the Free Press. Great to have everybody here with us. Because I see there are some newbies in the room, quick explainer about this event. It was launched, the Breakfast Club series was launched in 2018 with the goal of putting attention on critical issues impacting our region, state, and beyond. And we've had some exceptional speakers during this time, including billionaire entrepreneur Dan Gilbert, Bill Ford, U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, and the list goes on and on. That tradition continues today with two titans of business and motorsports in Roger Penske and Mark Royce. We're making history as well today as GM is rolling out the welcome map for its new global world headquarters inside this beautiful new Hudson's building. And if that's not enough, we're doing so as we kick off the Detroit Auto Show week. It's really a distinct honor and privilege that Roger and Mark both agreed to be part of this conversation. And I know everybody in this room is looking forward to it. In fact, I know that because tickets for this thing sold, boom, lickety split. Listen, Taylor Swift tickets didn't sell as fast as went for this. It's a distinct honor, again, to have them here. And these two men have been in the thick of the Motor City from business standpoint, from community events and philanthropic. They're busy, both overseeing billion-dollar global companies based in Detroit, but their imprint is in the community, including many things they're involved with, but including bringing the 2006 Super Bowl to Detroit, which those of us here remember, and returning the Grand Prix to Detroit. Dan Gilbert, who built this incredible building and appeared previously at the Breakfast Club, said it best to me when I asked him about these two gentlemen. He said, and this is a quote, "Roger and Mark are tireless advocates for Detroit, ensuring that the city remains the engine that drives America. Roger always shows up, bets big, and delivers. Mark, as president of GM, has evolved Detroit's manufacturing heritage into today's technology-driven world." Roger was born in Shaker Heights, Ohio, which a lot of people here are probably surprised by, thinking he was born in Detroit. But he came here decades ago, and the Motor City has benefited over and over again. Mark has been president of GM since 2019, working alongside Mary Barra. He grew up in Metro Detroit, started his career as an intern, and never looked back. He leads GM's strategic initiatives for the company with his vast array of vehicles. Born in Detroit, he's committed to revitalizing our region through his service to education, community, and philanthropic organizations. But you know, we're going to have a couple speakers real here quickly, and I want to bring up Nicole Avery-Nichols, who is the fearless editor and vice president of the Detroit Free Press, to say a few words. Nicole. Here we go.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, welcome, and Happy New Year. As the editor and president of the Detroit Free Press, it is an honor to welcome you to this edition of the Breakfast Club. We are so fortunate that we get to kick off Auto Show Week in conversation with General Motors President Mark Royce and Roger Penske, chairman of Penske Corporation. You can clap for that. Thank you for that. Both leaders and innovators in the space of autos, motorsports, and what is possible when passionate people conspire together. Looking forward to hearing from both of them. And let's just give it up for General Motors in this location. Let's just give it up for General Motors in this location. The new Hudson's building. Yes. As local journalists, we've told the story of this legendary location many times, and it truly is a privilege to just be a small part of the next chapter. They just moved in yesterday, so this is really exciting. Thanks to all of you for attending, and also thanks to our sponsors for helping us keep the conversation going. These are very important. Now, it wouldn't be a Breakfast Club if I didn't remind you of the importance of local media and a free and committed press. Please know that we at the Free Press are passionate about our work as storytellers, and we're aware of our responsibility to the communities that we serve. We at the Free Press will remain ever on guard for as long as you will have us. Please, if you have not done so, subscribe to the Detroit Free Press so you can read special sections like this one on this building that ran in the Sunday newspaper and always online at free.com. This section was created by our autos team. Autos team, raise your hand over there in the corner. Let's give them a little love. Hardworking local journalists. Once again, we know I've talked to many of you at the reception. Many of you are amazing readers, and thank you for your support and encouragement, and welcome once again to Breakfast Club.
Thank you. You know, anyone that puts on these events knows you need a special group to help bring it together. And we're so blessed to have an all-star team at the usatoday.com team. Aaron Veldhoven, Amy Rosner, Marcy Vaselli, and Kristen Orr. And we'd also like to thank Tara Coonan and the rest of the incredible GM team and Bedrock for their support of today's event. So round of applause for them. Okay, this is housekeeping pays the bills here. We need to give a shout out to our loyal Breakfast Club sponsors who make this all possible. So I'm going to list them, hold your applause till the end. The co-presenting sponsor, PNC Bank, Lawrence Tech, Detroit Auto Dealers Association, the Detroit Auto Show, and Henry Ford Health. The diamond sponsors, Penske Corporation, GM, Platinum sponsor, Lear and Ford. Silver sponsors, Visit Detroit, Downtown Detroit Partnership, AAA, HAP, Flagstar Bank, Barton Mallow, Deloitte. The bronze sponsor, Detroit Regional Chamber, Hollywood Casino, Michigan Chamber of Commerce, Delta Dental, Business Leaders for Michigan, Walsh College, and again, a special shout out to Bedrock for giving us complimentary valet parking. They sponsored it, so please, round of applause. And right now, I'd like to bring up Mike Bickers, who is president of PNC Bank in Detroit Southeast. He's also one of our presenting sponsors, to say a few words. Mike knows autos like no other non-auto executive in town. I am not kidding you about that. I've been to the auto show when I've seen him talking to, I won't say which company, but the CEO of a company, and even the CEO was looking like, who is this guy? He knew so much about it. So Mike Bickers, come on up.
Good morning, and thank you for joining. On behalf of PNC, I'd like to thank Carol and Roger and Mark for making time for us today. It's so exciting to have them both so early in the year. The strength and commitment these two gentlemen have brought to our region has been nothing short of extraordinary and, quite frankly, in my view, necessary. You and your organizations are key reasons that we all live, work, so proud to do so, and participate in the growth of this region with so much opportunity in front of us. PNC's commitment is to do all it can to turn those opportunities into reality, such that the community benefits in a meaningful way, which matters to the children and the families that we care about. Thank you, and enjoy.
Well, that was good. So Mike, question for you. So I asked Mike, who follows us closely, how do you think that Mark and Mary are doing in the overall scheme of with EVs and everything else going on? And he was so effusive, but we don't have time for that, so. No, we don't. We don't, all right. Just take my word for it. All right. Lawrence Tech University is also presenting sponsor, and I'd like to ask LTU President Dr. Tarek Soap to the stage. And as showing we have incredible universities and colleges in our region here. He's heading from here right to Florida to attend a meeting of the Association of Independent Technology Universities, where he's being inaugurated as president of this organization. It's a prestigious organization that includes 15 private universities, including MIT, Caltech, and others. So, President Soap, please come to the stage.
Thank you so much, Carol, and thanks to the Free Press for the invitation. It's been very exciting times in the city of Detroit, and I think in many ways the history and the future of Lawrence Technological University is so tightly linked to the city of Detroit in many ways since our inception 40 years ago. We started as an engineering school for 500 students, roughly again 40 years ago, and we've grown to one of 13 technological, comprehensive, doctoral, and independent universities in the U.S. The range of programming and the difference we make in our student lives is dramatic. We graduate about 1,500 students every year, and we enjoy 100% employment within 3 months of graduation, which is a wonderful thing. Our emphasis has always been on workforce development and professional programming now, not only in engineering, but in engineering and business and architecture and design, and as of recent, health sciences. It's been a great year for Lawrence Tech, actually. We were actually #1 in terms of starting salaries for recent graduates amongst all private and public universities in the state of Michigan, which is something we are incredibly proud of. We'd like to thank many colleagues in this room for their amazing support of our students and for their support of our scholarships program. On May 16th, in this room, we will have our annual fundraising gala. Last year, that gala was actually held at the station, and we were able to raise approximately $4 million that supported 80 students who would never have been able to attend Lawrence Tech. I can go forever, and Carol is going to kill me. I'm a professor by trade. I can speak for 3 hours, and I'm not going to do that. Thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.
And you know, LTU is a wonderful program. They have many things there. Read my Detroit Free Press column I wrote. It's online, as Nicole says. You can read it there, right?
Absolutely.
Was that accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Can't say any more than that.
I can't say anything else.
All righty. Thank you so much. And Todd Zott is a person many of you in the room know. He's an auto dealer, and he has been very involved with the Detroit Auto Dealers Association. He is chairman, in fact, of the 2026 Detroit Auto Show. They, too, are a presenting sponsor of our event. But he has a very unique connection to today's panel, so I'm going to let him tell the tale. Todd?
Good morning. I'm really honored to be here at this important event on this historic day as GM opens up this new, beautiful headquarters building. I'm also very excited, as Carol said, because I have a long connection to GM and to one of today's speakers, Roger Penske. Over 50 years ago, when I was just a kid, I first met Roger as he opened his new Chevrolet dealership in Southfield. Growing up, I was surrounded by Chevrolets, and to this day, even though I don't sell them, I still love Camaros and Corvettes. Roger Penske had just hired my father as a parts manager at his new dealership, Penske Chevrolet. He later inspired my father, telling him that he had what it took to become a potential automobile dealer. That inspiration led my father to launch our family dealership business, in which ultimately brings me here today. And I thank Roger for that. It's a privilege to represent the Detroit Auto Show as its 2026 chair and our 285 automobile dealers in our Detroit Auto Dealers Association. We're excited to support such a great event and start an exceptionally exciting, incredible week here in the Motor City. I hope all of you get a chance to go down to Huntington Place and see the show. Thank you.
Great job. Thank you, Todd. And our final presenting sponsor, Henry Ford Health. They're doing some incredibly big things here in the Motor City, too, tied to innovation and medical innovation. And Denise Brooks-Williams is here to share a few thoughts on that. Denise.
Good morning, and thank you, Carol. So I am excited to be here from Henry Ford Health. We have our table of leaders there, and we, as you know, are doing a lot of big things in the New Center area. Anybody drive down the Lodge recently? Yeah? Yes, you can give that a round of applause. We call the project that you're seeing the future of health, and it really does represent billions of dollars of investment in the New Center area, but we know that it's going to resonate throughout the region. And so we too are very excited about the launch today, what it means to have our auto show, what it means to be in this beautiful new GM building. And what you see unfolding, quite honestly, in front of you is a new state-of-the-art hospital that'll have all private rooms, new emergency department, new surgical suites, technology really that we can't even technically imagine at this point. We also have our partnership with Michigan State. So you see the research building, that's the beautiful glass lit building that you see. Yes, go blue. Go white, okay. But it is our research institute where we're extremely excited about the innovations that are going to be brought into the community with our partnership with Michigan State. I had to do that as a Wolverine. But in addition to that, we also have the Nick Gilbert Neurofibromatosis Center that's in there, our institute, which will also be a great place of learning. Partnering really has been the foundation of the future of health, and so the Detroit Pistons are another partner that I'd like to name because they're going to bring housing. So we really are creating a live, work, play environment in the New Center area, and we thank a lot of you. So one of my colleagues who came before me talked about their big fundraiser. I was looking at our philanthropy team. I said, $4 million. So do know those billions still have capacity for you to participate and partner with Henry Ford Health if you would like. Philanthropy has been a huge contributor to the project in all seriousness, and many of you in this room have supported us in getting to this point. So we're excited to be at Breakfast Club this morning, hear what's going on, and thank you for your support of Henry Ford.
Thank you so much. That was great. Again, big thanks to PNC, LTU, DADA, and Henry Ford Health, and all of our sponsors. I know this is a tough time for a lot of us, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations who are still found a way to get their way here to this. Really appreciate it. Your being here also shows how important this is because you know we're going to talk about important issues this morning. And speaking of that, before I say this, is Brian White here? Did he make it out of the VIP line? He called me from the VIP line. There we go. Okay, so the city is under new leadership as Mary Sheffield won a decisive victory in November. She's the first woman to hold the job following 75 men who preceded her. She couldn't be with us today, but we're pleased that Brian White, her deputy mayor, is here. Mr. Deputy Mayor Brian White, please join us.
Good morning. Thank you, Carol Cain and the Free Press for hosting this magnificent event. This is my first time attending, won't be the last, I will say. But it is truly an honor to stand here before you to represent Mayor Mary Sheffield. And I will say that she wanted to be here, and I'll just tell you why, because it speaks to who she is. She takes care of one of her little cousins like she's her own daughter. And her little cousin had to move back to Detroit this week and is starting school today, and she's just in shambles about going to a new school, so the mayor wanted to be there with her this morning and usher her into that new experience. So she always centers people, family, and seniors first, and especially our children, so that's what she's doing this morning. I also wanted to just introduce also, she sent her top brass here today, present company not included. Her Chief of Staff, David Bowser, if you could just raise his hand. And Tricia Stein, who many of you know is her Chief Strategy Officer, so she's here with us this morning as well. I want to also take a brief moment to thank our sponsors. As you've seen in the news recently, the mayor has been able to make some big, bold announcements already with RX Kids coming to Detroit, a new Office of Health, Human, and Homeless Services, and a large part of that is due to the support of people in this room, the donors and sponsors who's stepping up to ask what's important to the mayor, and she's being able to execute her agenda largely because of your support. So I just want to have you give yourselves a round of applause for that. And then lastly, I just want to say a couple of words about today's speakers. First and foremost, Mark Royce from GM. The mayor would like for me to extend her heartfelt dismay of not being here today. She wanted to join you, but again, she had family matters. But just thank you to GM for what you've meant to this city. Having one of the big three headquartered in the city of Detroit is something we like to hang our hat on, and it's important to see you in this new facility and all the great things that will come out of this building. So let's give GM and Mark Royce a round of applause. And then to Roger Penske. Where's Roger? Is he in there?
He's backstage.
Okay, he's backstage. All right. Just what an amazing man. To know Roger is to love Roger. I can't think, and I'm surprised that he wasn't born here. That was the first I heard that. But I can't think of a bigger ambassador for the city of Detroit than Roger Penske. So we can't say enough about Roger and what he's meant to the city of Detroit, helping bring the Super Bowl to Detroit, bringing the Grand Prix back down, the Q line. It goes on and on. And so we just want to say, and pause for a moment to say thank you to Roger Penske for all you mean to the city of Detroit. So let's give him a round of applause. All right, Carol's on my heels, so that's my cue. So I just want to again thank you on behalf of the Mayor of City of Detroit, Mary Sheffield, and just know that we see regionalism as the key to our success, and we're depending on all of you to move this city forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Great to see you. All right, so let's bring. You've heard his name mentioned a couple times already this morning, so let's bring him up. Mark Royce, join us to give the official welcome to your new world headquarters. Please put your hands together for the president of General Motors, Mark Royce.
Carol, thank you. It's the first time I've seen a GM podium in the space, so it's pretty nice, right? But I don't need it. So thank you, Carol, and good morning to everybody. I want to take this opportunity to welcome everyone, obviously, to our new global headquarters of General Motors downtown. Welcome to Deputy Mayor Brian White, and thank you for the kind words. Thank you for being here, and we look forward to working with you and the mayor to make Detroit better. And also, thank you to Carol and the Detroit Free Press and all the sponsors who made this event possible. And finally, thank you to Roger Penske, someone I've known literally my whole life. He's a great leader, mentor, and friend. Roger's always been a champion and a staunch supporter of the city of Detroit, and we are thrilled that he could join us this morning. I want to recognize Roger and everyone at Team Penske, which in 2026 is celebrating its 60th anniversary. That's 60 years of motorsports competition, excellence, and checkered flags in open wheel, stock car, and sports car racing. It's an incredible milestone for Team Penske, so let's congratulate them. Thank you. It's a big deal. So this building, Hudson's Detroit, represents our fourth home in this city. The first one we opened in 1911 on Woodward Avenue, just a few blocks down toward the riverfront on the west side of the street between Fort and Congress. As we all know, Hudson's Detroit stands on historic ground, and by choosing it as our new home, we honor the heritage of our past, even as we invest decisively in our future of innovation and success. Our presence here embodies our commitment to Detroit's revitalization and growth. We believe a strong Michigan with an educated and motivated workforce will create the innovation needed to drive the future of our industry. There's a strong Detroit, and that engine that powers Michigan is right here. That's why we're here in this incredible new building, building a new chapter in the story of General Motors and the story of Detroit. I strongly encourage you to explore and look at the amazing touches GM Design has put in this facility. Among our vehicles displayed today is the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1X, the most advanced Corvette and the quickest vehicle General Motors has ever made. So, pretty cool. So how quick is it? I'm glad you're thinking about that, and so check this out. think about that, 1.8 seconds, you know, that's it's insane, right? They can drive it and buy it right from a dealer like Carl Zimmerman, who's sitting right here from Maddox Chevrolet. So you can walk right in there and buy one of those. So anyway, it's pretty cool. Most vehicles capable of that type of number are 10 times literally what the ZR1X costs, 10 times. We made the revolutionary shift to a mid-engine setup with the C8. This was the kind of performance we knew was possible. That's our news for now. So we'll turn it back over to you, Carol. Thank you.
Wow. Why don't you have a seat next to me? So we're going to bring up someone who really doesn't need an introduction to 99.999% of the folks in this room. Roger Penske's path is so tied to Detroit, where his business and philanthropic efforts have been focused. He runs a global transportation company, an ultra-successful motor racing empire, and as we know, his heart is so tied to Detroit. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the captain, Roger Penske. Well, that was quite an opening. So, Roger, I can't thank you enough for joining us today as on this momentous day where we're celebrating GM's move back to Woodward in this new facility. And again, I appreciate you being here. Excuse me, Mark, I appreciate you being here. You both have done so much in the city, your impact in business, the corporate community, philanthropic, and beyond, not just here, but around the globe. So thank you again for being here. So, Roger, let me start with you on this, because your history with GM goes back, way back, to the time when, and with Chevy and also with GM. You were a race car driver. Early on, you became a Chevy dealer. You have partnered motorsports through Team Penske, Grand Prix, and the IndyCar Series. So, talk about the history of you and GM and Chevy and how it's evolved.
Well, first, Carol, let me welcome everyone here today and thank you for letting me be part of this great occasion. And Mark, to you and Mary Bear and the whole board of directors to make the commitment, you know, here in our city to stay here. It was a watershed decision. People don't realize that. Really, the anchor. This really, when you think about it, is the automotive capital of the world, and there's no question that your presence here at GM and what they've done in the investment here is amazing. But, you know, I'll tell you a funny story. I was at Lehigh in college, and, you know, I was very interested in racing. And in 1957, many of you weren't around in 57. I know that when you think 7 decades ago. And I went to the Chevrolet dealer in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, had a competition Corvette. I bought it on a GMAC payment book, just to let you know how we got started. So you think about that. So I was really in the game at that point. But, you know, Carol, I started out, you know, obviously driving myself and had an opportunity to race a car in Daytona, our team did. And as we progressed, and then really in 1965, I became a Chevrolet dealer in West Philadelphia, when you think about it, how many years ago. And Mark, that was the time you could buy an Impala with white walls for $2,800, just to put it in perspective. And you can't buy a set of wheels for that now for your car. But seriously, so that really manifested itself, and we obviously teamed up with GM and had the Trans Am Series, which we won, and then moved on. And I had the opportunity during this time, really in the 70s, to meet Mark's dad, Lloyd Royce, when he was chief engineer at Chevy, and he was very interested in motorsports and performance. And we teamed up really in '86 and decided that we were going to do an Indy engine. And you go back to 1920, I think, was the first time. I think it was Lewis Chevrolet, or one of them won the Indy 500 back at that point when you think about it. But we took 2 years, and I remember the story. We went out to Michigan, and we were taking the car out there with the Chevy engine, and we were like this, hoping that we could make a couple laps at a couple 100 miles an hour, because that's what we had told Lloyd. He was standing, and I'll never forget that day. It was probably one of the days that I'll always remember. But that manifested itself really into a partnership, Carol, with General Motors and Chevrolet, and really the company, which has given us, myself, our family and our company, really the background and obviously the foundation to have the success. And through that 2-year period, 86 to 88, we then went to Indianapolis and we won the first 500 for over 60 some years for Chevrolet. And think about it, since that time, we've had 20 wins, and 10 of them have been with General Motors. And Mark, doing a little homework before today, we've had 165 wins with Chevrolet product and General Motors product. So this really helped us launch ourselves in the partnership. And not to take a lot of time here this morning, but think about, we had the opportunity. We were a Detroit diesel distributor in New York. GM had decided to sell off some of their non-core products, and we partnered with GM at Detroit Diesel, and within 3 years, together, we took the market share in the heavy-duty truck market from 3% to 30%, and that was a complete, against Caterpillar and against Cummins, and that was the partnership. And I think dealing with Mark and the entire company, this has been game-changing for our company today, and I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. When you think about how are you successful, my dad told me a long time, well, effort equals results, there's no question. But I think it's about partnerships. And I can look through my whole history and people like Mark and other people that are here today with the automotive community that have really helped us, Carol. So I go way back to 1957, and Mark has told me he's expecting an Indy win this year, so number 21. I got the word outside before we came in today, so we'll see what happens.
There we go. So Mark, I'm hoping I'm not aging you here by this, but you have had a bird's eye view of the gentleman to your left, and watched the making of an American icon in Roger, who happens to be one of ours here locally here. If I had a dime for every person in this room who has told me their Roger story of something you had done early on in their career or whatever that impacted them, Roger, is just amazing. But talk about Roger's impact and his organizations here on Detroit and this region.
It's a long story because I literally have known Roger my whole life, which that's a privilege, number one. And number two, I can remember those days, my dad taking me to the Indy 500. And I met you for the first time, actually.
Right.
So in '86, I was graduated from college. But even before then, before we had those, we had the stock blocks for Buick and Chevrolet. Right. Remember those? And boy, going to the Indy 500, I just really wanted to be an engineer. I really wanted to be like Roger, and be like the company, because the execution was always so high. And frankly, I was in awe. Every time my dad took me to one of those races, and his wife, Kathy, sort of always took care of me because there's a lot of business going on, so I was sort of hanging around. And I looked older than I was, so I could sneak into the pits, but she always took care of me. So a lot of fond memories there, but also a lot of winning memories. And later, as we became business partners over a long period of time, Roger and I, post-financial crisis, sat down and said, I'd really like to have a Chevrolet engine back in IndyCar. And Ilmore's still there, the original partnership that goes back to that '86 time frame.
Right.
And what could we do to do that? And so we sat down with Bud and the whole Penske team and took a look at, can we get another Detroit race here? And I said, I'd love to be able to say that we have another co-developed engine and another race in Detroit. And we both really had that drive with IndyCar at the time, before Penske's ownership of it, to drive that home and get a race back. Yeah. And I have a lot of memories of that. The first race, Bud Denker was pouring like a dry mix onto the concrete on Belle Isle. Remember that, to make sure, because some of the rubber was coming up on the track. So that's the kind of commitment, though, that the Penske Corporation has. And you know, I wasn't around in '67 with Mark Donahue and the whole Trans Am piece, but I sure have a lot of memories of the cars, the drivers, and the company has always been, you know, a standard of excellence.
So let's talk a little bit about this building, and Mark, this building which is so historic, and GM making the imprint, looking to Michigan's history in terms of architecture, art, and just touches all throughout this building. We're very mindful, and just, if you can just talk a second or two.
Sure.
Because I know there's many different things, we don't have that much time. Just like, what are one or two highlights to you about in the facility here?
Well, if you go back in history and you look at GM really brought aesthetic design to the industry. People sometimes don't know that, but we did. And so the Harley Earl piece of that, and then the Saarinen influence of the mid-century modern is something that's very important to us, because we still believe that design drives the passionate buying experience, putting the customer at the center of all that. And that was based on a lot of research and a lot of history that came about. In fact, I think there's the 38 Aero Coupe sitting out here, but also, you know, sort of the Cadillac Celestiq is sort of our current design thinking for Cadillac. That's in this building. So it goes right down to the sections of the wood walls are similar to the Tech Center in design and other places there. All of those things are really carefully curated. Even the floor that you're sitting on here is really brought from that mid-century modern that we have in a lot of our different facilities. And the Bertoia, of course, that's hanging, has a lot of rich heritage to the Bertoia wall that is at Cadillac House in the center of the Tech Center, and then in Flint. And so a lot of really cool stories. I could go on and on. I know you said we don't have a lot of time on that, but just take a moment and take a look at some of those things. We redid the goddess that's sitting out there. That hasn't been seen in a long, long time, so our sculptors and Warren did that, so great stuff.
Wow, and one quick question here. Renaissance Center, you're moving from the Renaissance Center, which GM still owns as of today. Here, what happens to the Renaissance Center? What would you like to see happen? And what will GM's role be?
Well, you know, we put $1 billion in that riverfront, so, you know, big commitments, and we sort of redid the inside of that ring. It's a very difficult building to visit and work in. I worked in there for a while, but it's a bit confusing. So we did that. We put the money in it, and we don't want to see all that go away necessarily. And I think Dan Gilbert and his team did a nice job of putting renderings together that show the possibilities of office, of residential, of commercial, all coexisting there, and creating and reimagining the whole waterfront. So, you know, it's not derelict. We don't want to see any of that. We want to see that part of the skyline still, and I think we can do that.
Is that something, would you ever consider selling it?
You know, we're open to anything, but, you know, we put $250 million commitment-wise into that to make sure that the right things happen there, and we're hopeful.
Roger, you have been a champion for the Motor City forever, and one of the reasons, major events, the NCAA, Final Four, 2027, the 2024 NFL Draft, much of that comes from things because of the philanthropic things that you did to help the city. From your bird's eye view of what has transpired in recent years, how do you think Detroit's reputation has changed, and how do you think we're viewed around the world now?
Well, I think I go back to really when you think about 2003, when I got a call from Bill Ford Jr. about take over and be the chairman of the Super Bowl. And I think about the city at that point, Mark, when you think about it, what we had, and obviously it was a challenge, but it was amazing how the private sector, along obviously with the local political officials, we got together and started to build momentum. And when I think about I said earlier today, I remember calling MDOT and saying we could clean up I-94 and I-75. We got people coming in from around the world. How do we look? I remember having 2 vans with painters in it, and we'd say, let's paint this building, and tear this one down. So this was the momentum, and it wasn't just me. I mean, I happened to have a responsibility, but it was the amalgamation of the people here in Detroit, and to see the success of the Super Bowl and what we've been able to accomplish since then. And obviously, when you think about M1 Rail, we talked about M1 Rail, haven't you? I mean, think 150 million from the private sector. And talking to Lisa today, who ran that for us until it was turned over to Regional Transit, 1 million riders, think about that. And this is Woodward. Just think about Woodward, what that meant to us. From the the GM headquarters downtown, and 11 or 12 billion dollars have been invested. So you look at the Super Bowl, you look at what we've been able to accomplish from the standpoint of Woodward. And then one thing that goes really, Dave Bing, and again, just thinking about you out here today are part of this. Dave Bing called some business leaders here in the city, and he said, I need to get together. It was a snowy day. We went to see him. He said, I've got a real problem. He said, we're not going to be able to open up the parks for the kids this summer. He said, and I don't have enough police cars. And I don't have enough EMS units in order to help the city. I said, I'll take that one on. I made 3 phone calls. We got 100 police cars. The foundations and the automotive industry here stepped up, and we gave back to the city. And that's what I see today. We can see the buildings and certainly General Motors, and I take my hat off to Gilbert and Illich and a lot of the people that have committed here. But it's really the human capital, the people here that have taken their hard work and their capital to help this city. So I see trouble back in 2002 and 3, what we went through. How about the bankruptcy? You know, Mike Duggan, what a job, 12 years. And he helped champion, you know, the big bargain to get us through to where we are today. And then Mary Sheffield coming in, which we're excited with her history and certainly in the council, should be a great leader too. So I see Super Bowl, I see where we are today, and this obviously shows where we are. And the city is vibrant. And to be able to showcase the city, I tell this to Bud Denker, when we have the TV here and you showcase Detroit, you know, that's worth a Super Bowl look at the city when we have the race here. So I can't thank Mark and the partnership we have for that too. So it's a great partnership, and thank everybody here, you know, for what you've done.
You look like you were going to say something, Mark. No?
No, there's so much to say. Please.
Yeah, I know. He's watching the clock, too. We're all watching the clock.
No,
Anyways,
no,
we're here, and I know Sam Clement. We heard from Todd Zott, the Detroit Auto Dealers. They've got the Detroit Auto Show going, officially kicking off tomorrow, though this is kind of on the unofficial start of it today. Thoughts about the show, and how do you see its role? How do you see the role in the Detroit Auto Show fitting in?
You know, this is the changing landscape of media, automotive journalism, the coverage of all of that, and the incredibly variable timeline of vehicle introductions doesn't help keep intact the International Auto Show, not just in Detroit, but anywhere. So it's a lot tougher deal. And I have to give the whole team a lot of credit here for bringing it back to a really good Detroit auto show, which is what you have to sort of reset and go back to. So, you know, our display, we're committed. We're always committed. But I would say the industry is committed too, and I think it's only upwards from what we're going to do this year again. And bringing it back to January, I'm very positive on that. So I'm very hopeful, and you know, this is Detroit. This is a motor city. We have got to have a good auto show, right? I mean, come on, right? I mean, we have to. So, yeah, I mean, kudos, because I know it's hard. And it is a changing landscape, and it's very competitive, and people are watching where they spend their money. So we're all in, and so I think it's going to be great.
Let me ask real quickly here about auto dealers. You're both involved in businesses which have a huge chunk of business and revenue tied to how auto dealers are doing. The industry is changing. There's a lot of competition from non-traditional auto dealer ways of buying cars and trucks at this point in time. How drastically has it changed now from when you started, and where do you see the trajectory going on that?
Well, I think
he's a dealer too, by the way. Really
you got the long view, right?
Yeah, a really big one.
Well, let's say this. The one thing we have in the United States is a franchise system. And I think that major U.S. manufacturers are committed to that long term. We've got a lot of, direct selling that are trying to take place. It's difficult because you just don't barcode a windshield of a car and people drive it out. We've got a trade-in, we got financing, we got a lot of things. And remember, we're the downstream partner with a manufacturer because it goes a lot further than just the sale of the car. It's the service, it's the things that take place. And I think the dealer, if you meet the requirements, and I would say this, that the OEMs are expecting, common CI, corporate identity, common training, and things like that, and then the opportunity through AI that we're using in order to connect with our customers. This is all being help generated by the manufacturers. So I see that partnership getting stronger. And I've said before, one of the critical things is the captive finance company. And when I look at GM and I look at the real players in the business, that is the underlying strength. Guess what? Our floor plan, our customer leasing, our customer financing, and capital loans for the dealers. So we're so hooked together. I don't think there's anyone that I see in my lifetime who's going to come in and blow up the franchise system. There'll be people gnawing at the side of it and some of the startups, but really, sure, they're competitors, but at the end of the day, for us, we'll sell 500,000 new and used vehicles this year. And I can tell you, every one of them is sold through a franchise system on a worldwide basis. And so I see it being strong. I don't know how you feel, Mark.
Well, we've never questioned that, even though the industry has seen some of the gnawing around the edges of it. But we're deeply committed. What we have done is worked hard to get the tool sets for our dealers to make it easier for them to connect with the company, make it easier for our customers to connect with the dealer. And so we are continually making those tool sets better and better and better. So we're very committed to that. But the way I look at it, and I've always looked at it, is the dealer is our frontline customer. So those dealers are the ones at the coalface with our customers every day. And so those dealers they better believe in us and what we're doing. That's a gift, and that's earned every day. And those dealers, those are the mechanisms, those people every day are the mechanisms to our customers. So anything we can do to make it easier, to better, faster, quicker on approvals, or the whole discount and incentive piece of it is the elasticity of the market. So if we're doing that and we see that easier at the customer level with the dealer, hugely important to us. So we're in it for the long, long haul on that. And I can say, our company is number one in loyalty, and it's because of our product and because of our dealers. That's why.
So I know you both, besides having a love of Detroit, a love of motorsports, which is huge to both of you. And Mark, you're both professional race car drivers. You did something that few people in this room, I'm going to guess, have probably done, and that's drive a Corvette ZR1 at 233 miles per hour, which you have to tell me where this was. It wasn't on the lodge, no doubt. Your tires would have been
No, but this morning was very competitive, but it was not on the lodge.
So what was that like?
Everything happens really fast. I mean, really fast. And so it's hard to describe. You're pulling some serious G's. It's done on a long oval. And so they average the speeds going north and south on it. And the thing I was not prepared with, Ken Morris and I were doing this, and the G-force. And so the G-force going into that at over 200 miles an hour and coming out of it is something you don't see on a simulator. And frankly, I don't know how you teach that, but it was thrilling.
You hold your breath, did you?
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't close my eyes. No, I didn't. Trying to force the blood into my head. But speaking of motorsports, a couple of things here. We're deeply committed to motorsports, and we have been, along the way. So we race in the GTP, IMSA and WEC. We race Corvettes, globally. It's a big deal. And then IndyCar, of course. 134 wins across all of our national series last year, 11 driver championships, 5 manufacturers championships, and 3 championships, thanks to people like what's going on right here. So, yeah, we are deeply committed. I can tell you, these are some pictures of our tech center in Charlotte. And so we just finished that, and we're doing things like the gray car that you'll see out here for GTP, lots of aero work, lots of chassis work, lots of Formula One work, lots of NASCAR work. So the drivers in the simulators here, and you saw it, Roger, we took you on a tour of it there,
amazing.
But our simulation work that's going on right now is going to enable a pretty fast entry to the grid here. So that's extremely important to us. And with Cadillac, we've really curated this, and who knows, it leads to really cool ideas on production cars too. So not to dwell too much on that, but we do some pretty cool cars for Cadillac and Blackwings. So we'll see, right?
Your simulator, when you think about it, people don't realize, airplane pilots, don't they? Before they fly, they're in a simulator. Well, the actual feeling of in a simulator that GM has for our drivers, they're dying to get in it every day they can, because what they do, they go in before a race and they'll actually drive the car like they will on the race. Then they'll come back after the race to be sure, and they just keep refining it and refining it. And I would say GM is at the top level there, and our IndyCar guys are there all the time. I mean, you're waiting in line, and I think the commitment, Mark, that you've made on this, and especially as you look at your Formula One.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're all in. We do it all. We do our engine partnerships for IndyCar, but we make a lot of our race engines right here in Pontiac, Michigan, and they're hand built. And we make we make all of our high performance engines in Bowling Green for Corvette and Blackwing. So, yeah.
Well, speaking of racing in Detroit, both of you are involved with the Chevrolet Detroit Grand Prix presented by Lear. I think I got all that name in correctly there. Get all those sponsors in there. With whatever's going to happen with the Renaissance Center, the track is for the Grand Prix, I'm going to assume, might be affected. I don't know if anything would be going on this year. Any conversation about that yet?
Well, I mean, we don't have the final plans on the Rensen. What happens there?
Presumably.
Yeah, there'll be something happening there, but I can tell you, Bud and Roger and the whole team have done a wonderful job bringing it off of Belle Isle into the streets with what we have. And I think there's a lot of variation that can happen there and a lot of creativity and flexibility. So I think that partnership is key. Like you say, the partnerships are everything, because we'll work together with how that becomes a new riverfront to bring a great track.
And I think the byproduct of this partnership is $10 million that from the grand premiere that we've given back to the community. Remember that. The underlying foundation of having this race here is for the community and for Detroit. And you folks out here that help us there, it's a big, big help. And I would hope that we've got 2 or 3 years, and then we'll sit down, as Mark said, and determine what we can do, because, it's free. Think about the economic benefit. It's almost $100 million when we run the race here. So everybody's getting a benefit here. And guess what? It's another staple we're putting into the city of Detroit. And we've got to continue to do that. And I would say having GM there, and to think about the pit lane that Bud and the team did this past couple of years, and you sit there and you see the GM building there at the end of the pit lane. You go out there and look at it. It's massive. There's no place like it. And obviously, Mark, you've been a big supporter of ours. But I would say, Carol, we're going to continue to race in Detroit, and we want to see the building going on, because things are happening.
I guess construction cranes are good sites. That's what I remember. Dennis Archer, way back when he was mayor, told me that when everyone was complaining about the cranes going up and causing construction delays. Speaking of issues, 2025. I don't know what adjectives you might use. I guess behind closed doors you might use other words. I'll just call it turbulent with respect to managing, operating supply chains and managing supply chains with the president's tariffs and other things that have been going on throughout the last 12 months here. How difficult has it been to manage? And I'm curious what you see as we're looking into 2026.
Well, I mean, suppliers, I mean, we don't, nothing happens without our supply base. We have 100 or 1,000 tier 1 suppliers right here in Michigan. And, since 21, we've really been rebuilding the whole supply chain. We've got 11,000 suppliers in 85 plants and 4,500 dealers worldwide that we're running this through. So, it's about $90 billion of purchasing power here. And so I can tell you that it's everything. And if our suppliers, if our relationships with our suppliers aren't there, we can't make, we can't produce, and we can't sell. It's that simple. I would also say there's a huge part of this innovation-wise that is absolutely vital to our company. Suppliers bring incredible innovation into our company, and we integrate with them for that. So that never goes away. And I can tell you, it's just awesome. So Michigan is really a foundational piece of that for the supply chain for us and others.
Anything you want to add?
Well, from a supply chain, and when I think about 2025, the big thing we had to deal with was the disruption with the tariffs. And, we're so concerned about automotive here, but when you think about Washington, is it eggs? What is it? Is it oil? All these different things and products that they're worrying about. But the impact, obviously, I think the General Motors are able to pivot and deal with this. We as a dealer, we've seen obviously some escalation of pricing with some of the premium luxury. We've seen supply by some being shortened up, and then we had, of course, Land Rover this year over in the UK that had a breach. Mark, as you know, they were shut down. So those are things, but quite honestly, the core part of our business didn't change, and that's the parts and service. And I think we focused even more to connect in these, what we call, the one is your new car buyer, but when you look at tier 2 and tier 3, these are people that have cars that are 5 and 10 years old. We're digging into that now. We're using technology. Why haven't you been in? So we did a lot more farming within our really dealer group of customers in order to be able to survive through some of this. But I would say overall, and certainly, Mark, we talked about it earlier, as we saw the abrupt stop in September on battery electric vehicles, a 19% in the month of September go down. And I think you said it's going to take probably the next quarter or so to see where this thing levels out. So we're dealing with that. And I call it the gap. When you look at this, we had the electric vehicles being sold in California and places like it, maybe 20%, 25%. But when that $7,500 stopped, there was a gap, and the ICE vehicles didn't pick that up. So we're starting to have that merge now as we look into 2026. And I think, as Mark said, it's going to take time. And those customers are there, and there's going to be a journey 2030, 2035, we just don't know how fast it's going to go, but infrastructure, range, hybrids, all these things are going to play a part in this. So we've got to be versatile. And I think a car dealer's he's a trader, so we understand how to get by in tough times.
That's right.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs.
Yeah, right.
We both know that the president is scheduled to be in Detroit today. You both have talked to the president and have every so often. I don't know how recently, but with all of the evolving policies coming out of Washington, quickly changing no less, have you talked with him? I mean, do you think he understands the complexities of the auto industry and the auto business and how difficult it is? For example, if you say bring all production back to the U.S., how hard that is to actually do, to gear up building plants and the such?
I've got to say the administration doesn't come from the auto industry, but as this was being rolled out and put in place, it's been a really open door for some of the puts and takes on what happens, because we make engines in Flint, a lot of engines in Flint that go into trucks that are made in Mexico that come into Mexico, and that's just one example of that. So the supply chains are very complex; they're global. And so you have to get into that detail to be able to know that. And bringing production back to the United States is something that everybody would love to see, because it's jobs and it's growth and it's all of that. So we're doing that. And so I would say it's been a really open conversation and constructive pretty much from day one. And, we've worked with, I don't know how many administrations over what period of time, but we work with every administration. And so, this isn't one administration versus, that's not what's going on. It's how can we do this? How can we get, real support and real fundamental growth in the industrial manufacturing base of the auto industry here? And so that's been the conversation. Yeah.
Have you?
I think it's business friendly.
Yeah.
I would say, and there's no question as we look at this commitment, and I hear 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 10 trillion, some of those numbers, obviously are telephone numbers, but if we can get those commitments to happen, and we look, the byproduct of that's going to be not in the next 6 or 12 months, it's going to be 24 to 36 months. And if we can build these plants and the suppliers come back, it's going to be a real benefit to the middle class. Really, I think that's how I'm looking at it. Yeah, Mark, I don't know if you do,
Same.
But certainly the Secretary of Transportation is looking at, in our truck business, a lot of these nuclear verdicts on accidents. They're looking at CDLs, commercial driver licenses, that people are operating. Think about a freight market that really is tough for a freight company, but we have 100,000 illegal drivers driving with no insurance, in many cases no licenses. So the government is, little by little, we don't read about those things, starting to clamp down on that, which I think is very important. And to me, there's no question, the clean air, clean truck. Mark, I know you and Murray were very key as we talked to pull the waivers in California, because I think there were 13 states that had different regulations, for emissions. Well, now, under the current administration and the current legislation that's taken place, all of our states will have the same, which is key from the standpoint of certainly emission standards, which that's a benefit. Wouldn't you say you got a benefit out of that?
It was billions of dollars worldwide as well, trying to get, internal combustion engine powertrain regulatory consistency. And so it's a big deal. And, they understand that. They do.
And it's just, I look at it this way. There's so many things going on, and there's so many different avenues that have to be touched. And I would say the cabinet, they've got some good people. I'm concerned socially, personally, on what's going on in these cities. But just think about our city today. Homicides down 19%. Amazing. Think about that. And we've got a third of the population in the city of Detroit's under 24 years old. So things are happening when you've got the proper management. It's in our own companies that way, and it's certainly across this country. And I've got 15 grandchildren, so I'm concerned about, what they are going to grow up into and where we're going to be. Can they go to college, and what are the things that are going to take place? And we have to think about that and not react. I think Mike Duggan has been on the front of that for the last 12 years, and hopefully Mary Sheffield will take that. She's kept the police commissioner here, which is critical, and I've talked to Mike a lot, and hopefully that he's going to be successful in his strive to be the governor. He certainly has the credentials.
I know that Bill Ford has also come out and endorsed him. And Mark, are you getting in the endorsement game?
I don't know if I should, but I'm going to tell you that the partnership we've had with Mayor Duggan and now Mary Sheffield is extraordinary. We put $2.2 billion into bringing Hamtramck back online, which has been a great thing for the city. But I'd also say that there's a lot of other things that we worked on that may have not gotten all the media headlines that were, we put $150 million into the community here over the last 10 years. We're going to keep doing that. There's just billions of dollars in the state of Michigan, $17 billion that we put investment-wise back into the state. And those are big investments, and they aren't for like Roger said, they're not for the next year, they're for the next 5 to 10 years, and it's because of people like Mayor Duggan and now Mary Sheffield, who's going to concentrate, from what I've watched, and I've watched a lot of what she said, is on the neighborhoods, safety, children, all the things, that are important.
Sure.
And so taking the momentum from City Council into that is going to be a big deal. So I'm very optimistic and very positive on that, and I think we're lucky. Just in Michigan, 38 facilities, 210 dealers, 1,000 Tier 1 supplier locations, and a lot of money. So on a United States level, we're about $134 billion from an economic additive piece of that. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. We employ the most people in the United States of any OEM. And we make and sell, we sell the most vehicles of any OEM. So it's a big contribution. State of Michigan, just by itself, 4%, $29 billion of contribution here. So these aren't trillions, but we feel like we're doing our part for the communities and our plant cities, and especially Michigan. But there's much more to do, and we'll continue on that path.
Mark, we know GM's committed. We know it is certainly someone who lives in the state of Michigan, operates businesses here. I think it takes a hat off to you and certainly Mary Barra and the entire company of the commitment here in Michigan. And that's why we're able to see the things happening here. And we're going to continue. Just a byproduct of I didn't mention on the Grand Prix, the Boys and Girls Club. They have an opportunity to go to Dubai. We sent 6 kids to Dubai, autonomous vehicles. Think about that. And that came out of the Grand Prix and the things that we've done in conjunction with you folks. So those are the little things that we got to continue to do. They're not on the front page of the paper, but that's the heart and soul, the DNA of General Motors and the partnership that we have with them here. All of us do.
You're both involved with business leaders from Michigan and other organizations here. We know there's a huge focus with everybody, from the mayor, the governor, senators, everybody, on making sure our kids are better educated, getting the skills they need for the future here. How do you think, we could talk the whole time on that, but how do you think in a nutshell we're doing as a region/state at educating young folks? You've seen the test scores, which is obviously one barometer, but how are we doing?
This is over 10 years of doing things like the Student Corps, which I know Heidi Magyar is here, who's led that. But we take students out of the Detroit Public Schools, educate them on things like checkbooks, bank accounts. I wish I would have had that back then. All of those things. So we get a good front view of that. And I'd say the opportunities continually are not what we need to be doing there. The opportunities to show kids what could be are still in front of us. And so while it's a lot better, the test scores aren't good. And so we have got to keep working on that, and it is an ecosystem problem. It is not because there's no money or there's not great teachers. That's not true. There are. And so what can we do to continually change the ecosystem of how kids go to school and attend school? I think that's what's really encouraging about what Mary Sheffield's doing. That concentration on the neighborhoods and the ecosystem is really key to break that cycle.
Yeah. Anything on education?
Well, Carol, I would say part of education is work. And the opportunity that we've done here with the workforce development within the city, and the opportunity for these kids to be apprentices potentially during the summer is critical, because we can get them to a certain point, but if they can't go out and work, and many of these are kids from single parents, think about that and how tough that is. And to me, if we can get the basics, and these neighborhood programs that we've put together have been amazing. And but there's a long way to go here, and I think that I'm interested in seeing that, as I did and Mark did, while you're delivering newspapers or you're flipping hamburgers or whatever you're doing, we got to get these kids out, because standing on the corner, with our iPhone, that's not going to make it, and that's what we're fighting. The communication today is not face-to-face anymore. It's, I'm going to talk to you, on your phone. And that's, don't you agree? I mean, we didn't grow up that way, and but I think we're committed here in this state, and we're committed here in this city, and this workforce program, I think, is terrific, and I know that GM has played a big part of that.
Mark, I want to ask you this because the Gordie Howe Bridge is coming to life here, a matter of weeks, months, sometime in 2026. I know you were involved at one point with the Gordie Howe Bridge and helping to bring that to life here. There's a trade agreement between U.S., Canada, and Mexico right now, which is up for review. This was signed during Donald Trump's first term. A lot of conversation be going on there. How important is Canada to GM?
It's very important. You know, we have multiple facilities there, always have had, have a tech hub there around the Markham area. So, you know, if you think about it, we've always said that we want to go to where people want to be for some of the places that bring different things to our company, whether it's technical ability or manufacturing. The manufacturing sites we have in Canada are some of our very best in terms of commitment, quality, and production. So it's very important to us. Oshawa in particular, our headquarters in Canada is very important. It's been a long-standing thing. And I think, you know, our Mexico operations the same way. We have been there for a long, long time, probably my whole career. And so that's a great place for us from a market share and sell. We make a lot of things and sell in Mexico, but we also have a global footprint of other markets that come out of Mexico. So very important to us. We also, like I mentioned, the engine example. That's one small example, but our supply chains go all the way through all three countries. It's not simple. It's very complex. And, you know, I think it's a big strength. The whole North American piece of that is a big strength.
But don't you think, Mark, this is a critical point for the president?
Yeah.
It's got to be solved because it has an impact. You know, manufacturing parts in Canada, bringing them to the U.S. I mean, there's all the manufacturers, and I think that from my perspective, that should be almost at the top right now. We understand tariffs are coming. They're dealing with the international manufacturers, but today, for us in the U.S., this is critical.
I agree.
I know someone in the audience, Colin Bird, is here, the Canadian Consul General. He's probably calling Mark Carney saying, did you hear that? Did you?
No, that's fine. I mean, it's true.
Yeah. So we are kind of winding it down a little bit here. Roger, is there anything else with all the different conversations, all the pieces, all the things? Is there one point or one thing you want to leave thought with this audience? You have a lot of influential people here who have taken time out of busy days to be here.
Well, I want to thank them for the commitment that they've given the city and certainly the state. And we got to continue as one group of people that make a difference. Think about every day if our companies some way can make a difference, and I think, and give back. And that's what we try to do in our organization. Mark talked about what General Motors does, but I would just hope we continue that. And Carol, you know, things like this, getting together and be able to share some of our thoughts and experiences is so important. And I want to thank you for certainly the opportunity to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mark, any final thought?
Actually, there's one more thing, you know, and it's pretty awesome, so take a look. Hey.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the first ever look at the Cadillac Formula One wearing its official testing livery, which will appear on the track for the first time as we have the shakedown in Barcelona in 2 weeks here. So in Formula One, testing liveries help mask the aero details, just like camouflage prototypes do in our production cars. So They still have the elements of the brand identity. As you can see, the big Cadillac shield on it, but the design was a collaboration here, obviously, of our global design team and our co-owners in Formula One TWG, a true team effort. So what you'll notice, and you'll get a chance to go up and look at the car, but on the nose, I'm very proud of this, on the nose of the car are all the names of all the people who have worked to get us onto the grid very shortly here in Melbourne, and then our test first car on the track in 2 weeks. So we will reveal the official livery of the car for the actual races. And there's, you might have heard there might be a big game on February 8th. So if you watch that game, you might see something really cool that's the next gen of that test livery. So from there, it's a month till Melbourne. Yeah. So enjoy it, and that's all the big news we have today. Carol, thank you.
Well, and the other thing is that will be on display, I understand, at the Detroit Auto Show, if you don't get a chance to see it now.
Yeah.
And also for people here who wanted to take a tour of the GM's headquarters, Bedrock, people will gather, I'm not sure, Tara, wherever people want it. Just come over this way if you want to take the tour.
Yeah.
So I want to thank Mark Royce, Roger Penske for being part of this historic event and day and the evolving story of the Motor City. Thanks to the sponsors. Watch for notice of the next Breakfast Club. No, you can see a recap of this event on Michigan. I have to give a plug to my show. You have to watch a recap of the show on Michigan Matters this Sunday on CBS Detroit. And again, the tours are available. Thank you guys so much for being here. And everybody have a safe day and enjoy the Detroit Auto Show.